Hi, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Yacht Crew Vlogs right here on Yachting International Radio. My name is Ria. I am your host, and I am pleased to bring back Lee Harris from Blue Marine Travel out of New Zealand. How are you, Lee?
Yeah, very good. Yeah, it's been a busy week, which is all good. So, yeah, raring to go again.
Nice. Well, of course, headlining South Africa. What's going on there?
You're going to have to bear with me. It's a long one, unfortunately, as it normally is with South Africa. Yeah, so this week they finally announced the list of the banned countries who are not allowed to enter. In total, there are 57 countries that make up the list. Don't worry, I'm not going to go through them all. However, the banned countries are for passengers wanting to travel for leisure purposes only. So if foreign super yacht crew are coming in for work and they can prove the fact with relevant documentation, then they will be allowed to enter the country. Obviously, returning South African crew, there shouldn't be any problems at all. And to enter South Africa, you will need to have had a PCR test and a negative result no more than 72 hours prior to departure. Upon arrival in the airport of entry, the traveller will be screened for any COVID-19 symptoms or for contact with people who have been infected also. Travellers will also need to provide proof of accommodation should they need to self-quarantine at the time of arrival in the country. However, after saying all of this and saying it's good news, there has been a further development today. We've heard that Emirates have cancelled several of their planned flights into Durban Airport, with an expected cancellation of further flights into Johannesburg and to Cape Town. At the time of this interview, the details are still a bit sketchy, so you're going to have to bear with us on this one, and it may be something that we're going to have to come back to next week. But what we would say is that any crew who are on Emirates flights at the moment, please do double check with the airline if your flight has been affected. The reason is the issue apparently is in relation to the South African government, surprise, surprise, wanting to treat cabin crew the same as the regular passenger coming into the country, i.e. they're expecting them to self-quarantine or go into managed quarantine facilities for 10 to 14 days. Clearly not going to be feasible if we're talking about airlines traveling in and out every day. So anyone traveling with Emirates, please double check to make sure that your flight has not been affected. One other further point with regards to South Africa is that the national carrier South African Airlines have had to halt operations once more whilst their administrators try to raise further money. Again, we would urge any crew looking to travel, please disregard South African Airlines completely when you're looking to book flights, because the reality is you're going to be very disappointed.
I don't understand this whole concept about trying to implement a quarantine on airline staff, air stewardesses, pilots, etc., because generally the whole point is that they're flying in, there's a quick turnover, and then they fly back out again. There's no way that they can stop in the country, do 10 days self-isolation, and then, they're going to work maybe 2 flights a month at that stage.
It's crazy, isn't it? How are you going to get any schedule back in place if you're expecting crew to then go and isolate for 10 days? It's just not going to work. Like we say, Emirates, it was announced this weekend that they were going to be cancelling several of the flights to Durban. I mean, if that's the case, then we'd expect other airlines to follow suit. But like we said, at the moment, this is only sort of come out this last day, so we're still waiting for further information. Obviously, what we'll do is, as soon as we get it, it'll be put on social media, and also we'll discuss it again next week if there's been an answer and a resolution by then.
Well, we'll definitely, I'm sure you'll let us know, and we can put that beneath this interview as well for information, and just do a regular post as well, because I mean, I don't know, some of the decisions governments are making around the face of the planet, you just shake your head and wonder how they ever got into position to run for election, let alone actually be elected. It boggles the mind.
It doesn't, and what makes just what's crazy about it as well is the fact that they didn't actually bother telling anybody this until literally until the flights were due to operate. If you tell people you're going to be opening up airspace 2 weeks beforehand, maybe that's the time that you should have discussed this with the airline representatives and come up with a feasible solution. Because the reality is as well, airline crew, the pilots through to the cabin crew and everybody else, these guys are tested regularly. They are heavily tested probably more than most people. So there really shouldn't be any issues with this. So it just seems it's another block that South African government seems to be putting in the way.
Yeah, and I mean, the thing is, when you talk about governments, it's not just, the head of the government. they are usually surrounded by a whole, hundreds of people that help make all these policies and decisions. So, we're not laying the blame at anybody's door, but these people are supposed to be some of the most educated in every country when they get to make the government up. So when some of these decisions are passed down and, rednecks like myself take a look at them and think, well, that could be done better. You kind of wonder how these people got elected.
I know it's crazy. Yeah, I mean, like I say, it just baffles me, to be honest with you. And fingers crossed. Hopefully, there'll be a solution in in the coming days. And fingers crossed, South African crew, and any crew needing to get in there for work will be able to, and there'll be the flights as they're meant to be.
Well, we'll make sure everyone's updated. Now, another very popular topic, Australia.
Yeah, another one of our favourites, isn't it? Yeah,
Yeah.
Australia, they've basically announced that they're now allowing Kiwis to travel to North South Wales or the Northern Territory without having to quarantine starting later this month. At this stage, New Zealand will not be offering the same deal for Australians when the travel zone is opened up on October the 16th. Kiwis who travel to Australia will have to quarantine on their return to the country, and they will have to still pay for their own quarantine once they're back. However, the important part of this is that the deal could potentially give Australian crew desperate to get home a further route back into the country. As it stands at the moment, Australians are currently allowed to transit New Zealand, and if flights are now going to start opening between Auckland and Sydney on the 16th of October, this could be an extra way to get them home.
That is good news because you see it daily, and we talk about it every week. The fact is South Africa, Australia, New Zealand, those are three areas and massively heavily yachting areas, of course, where a lot of crew come from that are talking about going home or going to a job. And these areas have really been a hotspot for question marks, really, because one day there's a decision made and the next is changed. So it's very hard to keep up. But it sounds like there is slowly some good news starting to come out of those areas.
Yeah, definitely. I think especially Australia, they seem to have turned a corner with COVID, and they're now trying to get airspace opened up a little bit more. New Zealand, unfortunately, still very hesitant with regards to controlling the situation. I mean, we've got it under control here, very well. People may say that is because they've closed the borders down to non-Kiwis. So hopefully New Zealand will start to reciprocate as well with Australia, and we can start to see a bit of movement. But yeah, Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, like I say, the hotbed of super yacht crew, and they've been a hot topic on this show going since since the inception. So fingers crossed. Hopefully, it's moving in the direction. Unfortunately, it's just a little bit slower than we'd like.
So COVID tests now are becoming included in some airlines, just regular route costs.
Yeah, so Etihad this week they've now announced that starting from today, they'll actually any passengers who are departing from Abu Dhabi airport will be able to take advantage of a free COVID-19 PCR test. The only exception to that is anyone who's flying into China. They won't be able to, unfortunately. The initiative is designed to help restore confidence in travelling. For most of the travelling from Abu Dhabi until the end of the year, Etihad is including the additional service already in the price of the ticket that you've bought. For most passengers, what this will mean is travelling to a Life Medical Diagnostic Centre run by Life DX, and you'll undergo your test there between 48 and 96 hours before departure. The good news for first class and business class passengers is they'll have the option to take the test from home.
That is good. Well, why is there a difference? I mean, I imagine somebody comes to your home and brings that test with you, which is of course an extra cost, which means only offering it to first class.
I'm guessing that's probably the reason why, yeah, the higher fare you're paying, they can afford to give you a slightly better standard of service, i.e., somebody coming to your house to take the test. But yeah, I mean, it's included in the price of the ticket, so it's it's good news.
Yeah, yeah, because I mean, I've heard some prices, and the funny thing is, these prices straight across the face of the planet are so different. I mean, there's not one price fits all. I mean, in certain countries, the price for a test is over 200, euros or dollars or whatever it may be in local currency.
Yeah.
Whereas in others, I don't know, 60 euros or dollars, same thing goes with currency. But I mean, it's the same test or similar test for the same thing. So why there is such a huge range in pricing, I don't understand.
Yeah, I don't know. It's strange actually because I've not got the details in front of me. I saw one this week with regards to American Airlines that were talking about offering flights basically before departure of people when they get to check in. They'll give them the test and they'll get the response back within 10 to 15 minutes. And they were talking about prices as low as $10 for it, which just seems crazy to me. But we'll wait and see if that comes to fruition and if they can do it at that price.
Yeah, I mean, something like this, the fact is, I think we're just going to have to get used to these tests being there. And I think, $10, I think that's okay. And I think eventually that they should be, like ET, should be involved in whatever travel, process is. Because if you require something in order to travel, then that should be included in the price of whatever, that travel is. It's our new reality, and it's something we're going to have to get used to. And it's going to have to be, no one's going to want to take 40 tests a year and pay $300 for, every single test. It's astronomical.
That's the thing. Yeah, you've got to think about, for people who have just gone on holiday or whatever, once a year, you could probably afford a slightly higher PCR test, couldn't you? But yeah, for super yacht crew or business or corporate travelers, if they are doing that serious amount of traveling, if you're not going to get the price down, and if you're not including the price of the ticket, then it's, it is an expensive, time to fly.
Well, I was just talking to Ed Thomas, the CEO of Jim Marine, the other day, and he started a new initiative. Head over to their website. But he was calculating how many flights that he did last year in 2019, and he himself did 38 international flights. So you can imagine that if you're talking about the super yacht industry and the yachting industry as a whole, people are flying all over the world consistently on a daily basis. And yeah, if this one man did 38 flights, there are others out there that probably have done double that in that amount of time. So that is a lot of money if you have to pay for a test every single time you go.
It is, it would soon add up, doesn't it? And it's, like you said before, we're going to have to realize this is going to be the reality. I mean, even with a vaccine, I'll be very surprised if they're not still doing PCR testing, for airlines for quite some time. So we are going to have to get used to it. It's something that we're going to have to get used to with regards to getting to the airport. It's all going to become a new normal, as other things have already with, thermal imaging and all the rest of it. So yeah, they do need to find a way of either incorporating it into the cost of your ticket, or bringing the cost down to a price that's not going to be prohibitive to a lot of people.
Right. Well, what's going on in crew questions this week?
Yeah, we received a question from a crew member. Unfortunately, they didn't give us their name, so I can't actually mention them on the show. But basically, they were wanting to know if phantom flights were still being offered by airlines and booking sites on the internet. The simple answer is yes, they are. They're still there, unfortunately. The flights that are not going to be operating, but for whatever reason, they're still showing as operating, and people are still booking them. All I can say is, please do your research. If any doubts, contact a reputable travel agent who will be able to help you. That way you have someone in hand to help you through the difficult time of knowing A, if the flight is actually going to be operating, and B, if you have the correct documentation to get where you need to go. Again, if anyone is unsure at this time, they are looking to book, please feel free to contact us at Blue Marine Travel. We're more than happy to help.
Well, I think that's a key right now. There's so many things going on on a daily basis and so many things changing. I mean, we see that with South Africa, we've seen it with Australia, we've seen it in the States as well, and throughout Europe. Things are changing. And, as you just stated, phantom flights are still out there, which is absolutely ridiculous. We see airlines that are failing, that are still selling tickets, when in actuality, those routes aren't even available. They know it, and they may never become available, but they're still taking your money. I personally, if I were to fly, I would contact somebody in the travel industry to deal with all that for me, because the last thing I want to do is have a route set out, whether it be vacation or for work, not have any insurance to cover up in case it all went belly up, as it were, and to show up at the airport and find out that it's not even there. I would rather be dealing with a travel agent that can take care of all of that, knows whether or not it's going to happen. If those flights fail, they will rebook you somewhere else or find a way to get you your money back. So I would definitely recommend people get in touch with, whether it be Blue Marine Travel or another travel agency that specializes in crew travel. But in today's day and age, that's what you need to do.
Yeah, I think so. And again, I'm going to be biased, obviously, because I work in the industry, but um, it, it's so much easier. I can't stress. Okay, you may pay 20, 30 euros on top of the ticket, but that 20 and 30 euros, you've got to think that you've got peace of mind. You've got a dedicated person who's going to be able to help you if anything does go wrong. If you have any future questions with regards to your travel or you need to change it, again, you've got that dedicated person there who it's not going to take you an hour or 2 hours or 3 hours to get through to them, which is the reality, unfortunately, at the moment. If you're trying to speak direct to an airline, or if you're trying to speak to somebody, that you've booked via the internet, we have to deal with it. Certain airlines you can only book on their website, or similar. So we're seeing those wait times. We know what it's like, so an extra 20 or 30 euros if you went on a published ticket, if that's what you're paying extra. The reality is you probably wouldn't be paying any more anyway, especially if it's a crew ticket and a marine fare. You'd probably see that your price is actually a bit cheaper. But if it was slightly more expensive, then I think it's probably well worth it, especially at this time, because you're getting the right information.
Well, honestly, if you go online and you book a flight that costs you, 200 euros, for example, or $200, and those flights actually don't exist, you literally lost your 200 euros or $200. So I think that 20 or 30 euros or dollars that you spend extra, it's well worth it.
You're right. Who knows? Because the thing is, well, yeah, that's right. You don't know when you'll get that refund back. Even if you get your money back, you might get a flight voucher, or something similar. So you're exactly right. You could be waiting 6 months for a refund, or like I said, you might just get a voucher to use at a later time. So,
Or a voucher on an airline that's actually disappeared.
exactly right. Yeah. Who knows which airline's going to be back in 6 months' time? There's definitely no certainties at this moment in time.
Yeah, well, you know what? I mean, it's always invaluable to have you here, Lee, because, things are changing consistently and crew, I think I see it, and I see it long as time goes on. I see it more and more. Crew are really feeling nervous when it comes to flying, and when it comes to getting home and getting to boats and what their legal situation is. Sometimes they can't get a flight home and they're wondering what their visa situation is. I mean, it really is a mess out there when you are an international worker. And so these sessions definitely are invaluable in letting people know what, where, when, and how.
Yeah, it is. Again, our heart goes out to crew. The thing is for them as well, especially if they're leaving, their home to go to work. They don't know nobody knows what's going to be happening. With regards to travel all the world. From 1 month, I say 1 month, from one day to the next. So these guys are going out there to do their job on a contract. They've got no way of knowing what's going to happen. So you've got to feel for these guys because they're putting themselves out there. With the risk of quarantine being put in place in their country where they've got to go back, which is a real possibility for some, and the fact that they may have to pay for that as well. So if we can help these guys, then that's good for us. That we want to help these people. So again, reach out to us if you've got any questions, if you've got any queries, and we're more than happy to help.
Thank you, Lee, for coming in with us today. We really appreciate it.
Thanks so much. It's always a pleasure.
You've been watching another edition of Crew Travel Vlogs right here on Yachting International Radio. My name is Ria. I have been your host. Please tune in again next week.